Hey guys, welcome back to another Bitcoin morning brief. I know I'm all confused with my headlines. When I was about to go live, I was going to be by myself, and here he is, last minute. I'm still in the kitchen, but Jimmy's no longer in his car. He's allowed back into his house. So it looks like you are also in the kitchen.
I'm not in the kitchen. I'm in
Oh,
my
okay,
office. Yeah, yeah.
it looks different.
Yeah. No, it's the same. It might be the angle of the camera or something like that. Although, I am moving soon, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Um, but yeah, I just gotta grind and make this happen.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we are back by popular demand, and let's go over a few news stories before we get to the price. I haven't fully read this. I actually just found out. I haven't been paying attention. What did Coinbase do this time? This is like hilarious.
Yeah, so apparently there are customers, and you can go to like the Coinbase Reddit where people are just like, "What the hell? Why are you charging me like double, triple, quadruple charging me for various things?" And other people are getting like random charges on their account and things like that. Uh, Coinbase has come out and said that it's due to their credit card processor doing something weird, specifically Visa. But a lot of people are freaked out about like what's happening to my account. Why are these charges coming up and all this stuff? Um, Tells me something is going on here. At least that's the story that I think this is referring to. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy situation over there, as if they don't have enough things to deal with.
Yeah, well, that's what kind of happens. When you start having some problems, like other problems just like start to accumulate. It gets kind of crazy really quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
that's normal for any sort of like large software project. If you're just constantly fighting fires, what ends up happening is that you don't see other fires that are starting to break out because you're fighting the bigger fire. And this is how a lot of software companies end up doing badly is one fire gets on top of another, and in order to quell that fire, you need to hire more people. And in order to hire more people, you need to take people off of firefighting duty. It's a vicious, vicious cycle, and it can get very, very bad very fast, especially if you compromise on like sort of the quality of people that you hire. And I've seen that happen over and over again with a lot of companies where they just don't pay off technical debt, and they end up in these like weird situations with all kinds of weird bugs and security flaws and things like that. You just get sloppier. I really hope for the sake of the industry that Coinbase figures something out, but yeah, this isn't good news.
But this is a general problem. Again, this isn't the Bitcoin problem. This is a fiat problem, and this is one of the things that you have to deal with when you start connecting your bank account to companies involving Bitcoin. I mean, this all the problems come from that. Now, I did recently hear that you can actually use Bitcoin anonymously. Like if you don't connect it to your bank account, you can technically create an account with Coinbase with just an email address to use to use their wallet. So there is something there. I mean, it'll help, but just be careful, guys. When you're connecting Bitcoin to your bank account, things get weird in a hurry.
Well, I think for those people, they have to connect it to their credit card account or something like that, a Visa account, something, and that's causing a lot of trouble because I guess Visa is like rejecting those transactions, and maybe there's some process that charges people over and over, something weird like that. It's the entire credit card industry, if you've studied it at all, is just an insane sort of conglomeration of like 80 different parties that are like each taking like some small sliver, but because of the volume, they make tons of money. And it's not a surprise that somebody in that chain of custody of money does something weird, and it causes issues like this.
All right, so let's move on to the next one, and we have Atari joining in this. Yeah, now is this like does Atari actually have some kind of a use case for a blockchain, or is this another case of our companies dying? Maybe if we throw the word blockchain in there, it'll save us. And I know you just had a very popular tweet about why you don't need a blockchain. So what do you see here? Like, can Atari
Yeah,
actually utilize the blockchain, or is this just a gimmick?
I think it's just a gimmick. I mean, we're both very well aware of stocks that have just put blockchain in their name and doubled or tripled in price just because they put the word blockchain in their name. So it's not surprising to me that companies like Kodak or Atari sort of try to make the market think that they're going in that direction as a way to save their brands or companies or whatever. And I mean, who can blame them, right? Like they see ICOs and things like making so much money off of almost nothing. And if you scroll down a little bit, Tone, the tweet that I had is why you don't want a blockchain. And it's for a lot of reasons, but storage, everyone has to store everything. Bandwidth, everyone has to broadcast to everyone. Everyone has to validate everything. Everything's 10 times harder, and everyone collectively has control, not you. So for companies,
I would have added another very serious one,
which is
the ability to permanently delete your data.
Yeah, it's always there.
Right? So, like that's what I try to explain to people. Like every time I get into this argument of like I want to put real estate on the blockchain, I'm like, oh really? You want the ability to accidentally give your neighbor full rights and ownership of your real estate? And the answer is always no. Why would I want that? I'm like, well, that's what the blockchain will do.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that people don't really realize. It's immutable. You can't change it. And that can be a feature, but it can also I think it falls into number 5, right? Everyone has control, which means that you can't go delete something.
Well, I know it's not really clear. No, I wouldn't say that it's not the immutability. Like it's like they think that the record is immutable, but you can always update the record, and now the new record is immutable, right? Like like they think that like multiple records. It's not even that. It's literally the ability to be the sole owner of the data with the capability of deleting it permanently, or like a bearer asset property. Like people don't comprehend that a blockchain gives you the bearer asset property, like cash. Like whoever holds it in their hand owns it, unless you can like force them to give it to you.
Yeah, exactly. It is a bearer asset, and people are not used to that because our system is built around other entities that have custody, so you don't have to worry about it. Which is nice, except that once somebody else has custody of it, then you don't really have it, and they can lend it out, and they can fractionally reserve it, and things like that. Which are all games that every bank has played, right? Like they go lend out your money and do shady things with it so that they can make money, and it ends up being just terrible.
Well, like I said, my only critique is like everything is right except on number 5 under control. I would have made it very clear, and instead of writing everyone collectively has control, I don't think that's like to most people that's not clear. I would literally write, you have the ability to permanently delete this information. And I think that
you do not have that ability. Yeah.
No, you do have that ability, right? Like you have the ability to permanently delete your digital data.
On a blockchain? No, it's always there. You have the ability to delete by accident.
Okay, sorry. You have the ability to delete control of your data, right? Like
so it's possible for you to lose control of some asset.
Correct. And that's how I phrased it. In that way, because people have to understand that like you have the ability to lose your Bitcoin, even though it's on the blockchain. You can stare at your millions forever, but you have no way of accessing them, right? Like unless that's what you want with real estate, you can stare at your house that you built, but because you put it on the blockchain, you no longer have control in that house, and you legally can't live there, right? Like, like that's what a blockchain will do for you, and people just don't get that.
Yeah. It's tricky with like real assets that have a correspondence too on like if you have real estate and there's a representation of that real estate on the blockchain, then like it gets really tricky. With Bitcoin, it's actually a digital asset and there's no real world analog of it.
Right.
Whereas with like something like gold or stocks or whatever it is that people want to put on the blockchain, that's not the case. There's actually something else. And you have to make that correspondence. And that's not a problem that anyone's really solved very well yet, is how do you manage that? Because then it becomes a centralizing force.
Right.
So,
and the other thing is, like, if the government doesn't recognize that, then who cares that it's on a blockchain?
yeah. It's absolutely true. And this gets to be a very difficult thing to figure out how well. This is why like blockchain makes sense for Bitcoin. For a lot of other things, it might make sense down the line if you find the specific way in which it can work. But for now, it's very hard for me to think of ways in which that actually matters.
All right. So before I move on to the price, just a quick word on Lightning, because we talked about Lightning like yesterday, right? And I got a ton of YouTube comments on that, mostly from people that are fascinated by my non-understanding of Lightning. And of course, the Bcash people are in there talking about this is why Lightning is so bad and why, but Bcash is a joke. So here's the thing, right? So this gets back to the idea of everyone needing their own Lightning channel. Now, a couple of things I want to just straighten out here. So first of all, I don't need to own a Lightning channel to pay into a Lightning channel, right? Like,
no, it's weird to call it owning a Lightning channel. You have to open a channel with somebody. The channel is the continuously updating transaction that you're doing with somebody. That's sort of like your mini ledger between you and another person. If you think of Bitcoin as like the global ledger, you have like these mini ledgers that settle on chain later. Does that make sense? That's what a channel is.
It makes sense, right? But like right now, I have a SegWit wallet, right? So like TorGuard was the first one to create, one of their Lightning channels for commerce. So if I want to pay
Lightning nodes.
Lightning nodes. Right? So
and you can create a channel with them if you have a Lightning
node.
But
I can pay into their Lightning node, and now that Bitcoin sits inside their Lightning channel.
No. So when you open a channel with TorGuard, you have a channel from you have a continuously updating transaction between you and TorGuard. And when you pay TorGuard, you update that transaction so it says, okay, Tone, it might have said Tone gets 1 Bitcoin and TorGuard gets 1 Bitcoin. If you're paying them half a Bitcoin, it would say Tone gets half a Bitcoin and TorGuard gets 1.5 Bitcoin. That's that. And then if they were to refund you like 0.25 Bitcoin, it would say Tone gets 0.75 Bitcoin, TorGuard gets 1.25 Bitcoin. That's how that works. That transaction that gets updated, that's what you call the channel. And if you want to pay in that channel, that's how you do it. But you only need that one channel to pay everybody else that's connected to TorGuard.
Gotcha. All right. So this is the fascinating part. So people are like, oh, Tone is like such a fan of Lightning and he doesn't know how it's used. And my counter argument to that is I'm a huge fan of flying on airplanes, yet I have no idea how to fly an airplane, right? Like I entrust the engineering of an airplane and the piloting of an airplane to experts in aviation. Lightning to me is the same. Like I will never have the technical expertise to understand how Lightning works, just like I will never have the technical expertise to understand how the internet works. Yet
I think you're underestimating your own intelligence, but
okay, fine.
I totally think you can.
Fine. I don't want to spend all that time trying to figure it out.
Okay,
I hated being a programmer on Wall Street. I got out of every single programming project I ever had to do. We just weaseled my way out of those. But but look, the idea is you don't need to understand the you don't need to understand the technical details of something that experts have pretty much unanimously agreed is good. and therefore I'm a big supporter of Lightning until I hear enough experts that I respect convince me otherwise.
Yeah, and I think the airplane analogy is very apt, because right now it's sort of in the early days, and you don't really want to, risk too much on an airplane, right? Like in the early days of airplane technology, and we're sort of in that with Lightning, and this is why Lightning channels have a limit of 0.04 Bitcoin. It's a way to protect you and people that are playing with this stuff from, like losing too much money if something goes wrong. Not that it's necessarily going to, but we don't really know the characteristics of sort of like the security, things that we're going to have to guard against and things like that, and what attack surface we're exposing. It's smaller in some ways, but it's larger in others, and this is the sort of thing that needs research. But it's also good that it's on mainnet, because now people have an incentive to try to attack it and get money out of it. So this is how we harden technology and make sure like airplanes can fly through rain and stuff like that. That's more or less what's happening right now on the network.
All right, awesome. So thank you very much for that update. I think it's time for us to talk about the price. So Jimmy, you're welcome to stick around. If you're busy, you're welcome to get going. It's up to you.
All right, so I'll take off because I have to go get some lunch. But this song is done. Please pay attention to Tone and see what's gonna happen with his trading seminar.
Bye, Jimmy.
All right, bye.
Speaking of trading seminar, that's actually happening tomorrow. But for today, so everything I talk about in trading, please learn trading to understand trading. I have a nice website. Well, that's debatable, but I have a useful website. So if you go to the educational tools on Liberty Life Trail, learn trading, the stuff that I focus on in section 6, and more traditional trading information is in sections 1 to 5. All of these links are incredibly useful. Check out the consulting section right here if you need some more information and you are interested in any of my products or services. And the trading seminars, forgot to update this page, but yeah, pretty much I sold out. Like it's, I was gonna put the number 3 here, but yeah, this morning I finally hit my max 20, even though there's still maybe 1 or 2 seats available. I think my venue can fit a little bit more than 20 people, but I'm happy that I can now say I sold out Washington, so that's great. And then in New York, I'm at about 25 people now out of my intended 30 people. All right, let's talk about the price. Here's the weekly chart. The weekly chart is looking better. Again, the week is almost over. We are now, today is Friday. So this candle will end on Sunday. And if this candle ends in the vicinity of the top of the high of this weekly candle, things are looking very, very good. Now, we're still probably going to get a red 7, but let's see if we can avoid a red 8 and flip to the green count. So, like I've said in prior videos, flipping to the green count before getting to a red 9 is not always a great thing, because when you get that red 9, it can set you up for a big swing in the other direction. By breaking the count early, it's a little bit tricky in that, well, it never actually bottomed. So are we about to set off a brand new 1 to 9 count to the downside? So things are still a little bit up in the air, but that's using the time indicator accounting system. Based on traditional trading, we had a beautiful weekly reversal candle right here. And once we started trading above the top of that candle, like all bullishness has set in the long-term weekly charts. The daily is the really is the main one. I mean, the daily candles are the candles that I focus on the most. And the daily did give us a 9 reversal candle. Looking at this count with, a little bit of hindsight and a little bit of, discretion, you would see that the difference between this candle being a green 4 and this candle being a red 1 is somewhat trivial, which sets us up for knowing that as this red 8 is coming out, is happening, like you're like, okay, I was only a few dollars away from this candle actually being a 9. So knowing that information could have probably got you into the bullish trade a little bit earlier. The same discretion should be used right now. When you have a green count broken by a single price flip, you should compare the closing price of this candle to the closing price 4 candles earlier. And you will also see that this difference is somewhat trivial. So the way I'm looking at this current run from here is, hey, I just had about 9 candles of upside, and maybe it's time for it to take a break. This might be a 1 to 4 candle break, or this might be something more significant. Now, obviously, it doesn't have to take a break, but very often it does. So I'm not surprised at all that we have hit resistance, and not only today based on numbering counts, but also the fact that it's 10,000. And I've talked about 10,000 becoming weak support that was going to be inevitably broken. And because it spent so much time playing support, it has become a bit of formidable resistance. And let's see how difficult it will be for Bitcoin to break above it. Now, the good news is the longer we stay, the more times we attempt to break 10,000 from the downside, the stronger and more likely the breakout actually is. So let's just say if we were to pull back from here, and you can see how the 4-hour chart is being rejected by the 200 candle moving average, the 200 period moving average on a 4-hour chart. So if so my view on it is this right here. I think the drop from 10,000 when we hit it the first time down to 9,600 wasn't really all that deep. So my perfect scenario would be, I shouldn't even put it. I guess I can leave that line there. My perfect scenario right now would be a stronger rejection. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is what I would like to see happen. A stronger rejection back to the low $9,000 area. I mean, going all the way to 9 is like flirting with disaster, but maybe go back to the, let me double click on this. Maybe going back to the top of this range, make it yellow. Maybe going back to the top of the range of like the 9,300 area here, okay? So that would be my perfect scenario, like a bit of a pullback on Bitcoin right now. Let me get green and let me get an arrow. How do I get an arrow? I probably should have clicked on the arrow. Hold on. I go here and I go arrow. And then go back, and then I'll make them green in a second, and then break out, right, like to there. So these need to be green, and that one green, and this one copy paste in red. Now Bitcoin has been pretty strong, so. But this is how you want to see your markets break out, right? So I think that 10,000 is pretty strong resistance. Now my target off of this cup handle remains at about 12,500, and I do think we're going to get there. I just don't think we're going to get there tomorrow. So I am looking for a bit of a pullback here. Though the daily is a little bit tricky. This is a reversal candle, so be careful. You have the looming, I think that's the 128-day moving average. If I change that to the 200-day moving average, where are we? We're down here, so 200-day moving average will act as support, but it's still pretty far down, way further than 9. Like, I don't want us to go below 9, but I would love to see a pullback back to 9. And if we can cross below this red line or come to the vicinity of this red line, I can even move it up a bit. The moment this happens, the moment the price of Bitcoin gets back to like 9750 area, I would be pretty confident that we're probably going to go lower down into 93, 9200, and then potentially bounce from there. So my outlook for the very short term is a little bearish. I am, like I said, I'm expecting us to have resistance at 10,000, but if we stagnate in this 9,700 to $10,200 area for like a few days, that will also resolve the condition of breaking out with some volume over 10,000. Here's the 1 hour chart. So you can already see a lower low in the 1 hour chart. And you're coming up on that 50-hour moving average again. So if we cross below 9,800, that's when we can probably drop all the way to the 200-hour moving average, or maybe even to this setup trend line in the $9,200 area. So right now, if I was to see the price of Bitcoin go below whatever this line is, what is that line? 9,800. I'll make it 9,750. I'll even like force it, right? Like 9,749 or something like that, right? If I was to see 9,750 broken to the downside, I would definitely be confident in a bit of a short trade down into the 92, $9,300 area, maybe even 9,100. But yeah, so next candle will be a 2 trading below the 1. If it goes below the 50-hour moving average, if it goes below the slide, there could definitely be a little bit of short-term panic setting in, which would be healthy for the upcoming bull run. So I'm short-term bearish, medium-term bullish, and long weekly term still a little bit neutral, but starting to lean bullish. That's pretty much it. The traditional stock market continues to go up. I know I owe you guys a traditional market video. So I expected yesterday to be kind of the end of this reversal, and then you reevaluate, right? So off of these nines, I mean, I called the bottom like perfectly to almost the hour that it happened. But ever since then, I've been looking for a 1 to 4 candle correction and then reevaluate the situation. So now that we're on candle number 5 after a 9, and this candle went up some more, I now have to be technically bullish on the stock market, even though, I mean, today's Friday. Let's see how Monday opens. If Monday is a positive day in the stock market, I would say we're going to all-time highs and beyond. And this was basically just a joke and just trick people. Well, I know all the libertarians and anarchists and the gold bulls, I know they all thought that the market was going to zero, but I continue to tell people the S&P is going to double to triple in the very near future. Like I couldn't be any more bullish the stock market, and I have been for years, and it continues to make all-time highs. That's pretty much it. Not much else. Just the picture at gold. Gold remains the victim of the U.S. dollar weakness. So let's see what happens there. All right. I think I've been yapping for about 30 minutes. Corey, you got any questions for me if you're on? If not, I'll just glance at the chat. What's going on there with some questions, and we'll take it from there. Let's see. For trading purposes, are your assets in self-directed IRA or using an LLC. So I do my trading in a self-directed IRA. Now, one of the mistakes that I made is I didn't convert it. I should have converted it to a Roth IRA, but I kind of made some money that year, and I said, hey, next year I'm gonna make sure I make no money, and I'll convert my self-directed IRA to a self-directed Roth IRA. But unfortunately, I doubled the amount of my 401k of my self-directed IRA. So now, if I was to convert it to a Roth, I would have a giant tax burden that I'd have to liquidate Bitcoin for to afford. So I kind of screwed that one up. Yeah, I'll do another Martin Armstrong style prediction, but the next one isn't for like a year and a half out, so I haven't really been in a rush to do so. All right, Corey's got some questions for me. Do you believe in any conspiracy theories? I don't know. You have to. I don't know. Not maybe. It's hard for me to answer that, right? Like, what's conspiracy theories to some are facts to others, right? So we don't know. Thoughts on Wyckoff method? I'm not very familiar with the Wyckoff method. I'm sure I've run into it in the past, but I'd have to look at some of the Wyckoff charts and to give you my opinion. I don't feel like Googling it now on live air. Wouldn't it make sense to alter your indicator so it takes the small differences into account so that it would know about the premature color flip? Yes, but there's only so much I can do with the insanely limited amount of free time that I have. I would also like to automate trading strategies off of it, but again, I gotta have time, I gotta have developers, and this is not easy work and it's not free work, right? So yeah, of course, I would also love a teleporter so I don't have to spend 14 hours on a plane with no internet from New York to Hong Kong, but we, have to deal with it. Could you comment on Ripple's attempts of cooperation with the banking system, and how will it help with the price of XRP? Look, the XRP token is a scam. I'm not saying Ripple Labs is a scam. I'm saying Ripple creating the XRP token created a scam. Now, I think they have to by now realize that the XRP token is completely useless for what they're selling the banks. So now they have but because you can't just admit that the Ripple token is a scam because you go to prison, you have to, find a way to bullshit these banks that they need the Ripple token. Now, the problem that they have is that people working at these banks eventually are going to be pretty smart, right? Like right now, they're dealing probably with like the idiots at those banks that have no idea what's going on. But sooner or later, you're going to get to the CTO. Sooner or later, you're going to get to like really, really intelligent people that work at the top of those banks. And they're going to realize that the Ripple token is complete nonsense and is totally irrelevant to whatever Ripple is trying to do with the banks. So sooner or later, that realization is going to come. No, there's absolutely nothing they can do because stupid projects eventually, go to zero. This is why Amazon rules online selling of goods and not Pets.com. They were exactly the same company. One was just, smarter about its management and how to do things. So sooner or later, there will be a realization from banks, if there isn't already, that the token itself is pure garbage and completely unnecessary to anything that they do. Sure, you can believe in Ripple Labs, but you have to understand that the token is the problem. And the only reason why the token is there is because the scammer Jab McCaleb showed up and convinced them that they needed a token just because he wanted to get rich. And then when he couldn't get rich, he went and forked it into Stellar. And now he could get rich, right? So it's that's all it is. So I don't know what you want me to say, right? Like R3 is doing the same thing that Ripple's doing, only without the token. And clearly, I think R3 is struggling because they don't have all this money that they can cash out because they don't have a scam token. All right, next. Yes, I did know that the country of Georgia is using Bitcoin blockchain for land registry. Doesn't make it any less stupid for the country of Georgia to use the blockchain for land registry. Next. Why is the stock market going to all-time highs? What about the bond bubble or real estate bubble and Trump adding to the national debt and China buying our bonds? Okay, so everything that you just mentioned, and this is the big misunderstanding, the question came from Cindy. So Cindy, the stock market is going up because of the bond bubble and because of the real estate bubble and because of Trump adding to the national debt and because of China buying the bonds. Like, this is why the stock market is going up. Though China isn't really buying our bonds, China is actually selling our bonds. But you see, when you add to the national debt, it creates, it gives people the reason to mistrust government, right? And when people trust government less, they tend to trust corporations more. So this is that big divide. So the bond bubble would send people selling their bonds, and what do they do with the money? Not very few people are gold bugs. You know, what are you going to do with the money when you if you personally have $100,000 worth of bonds and you sell them, what are you going to do with $100,000, especially if you feel that real estate is overpriced? Now, holding cash under your mattress is not a good idea. You may or may not trust the banks. You may not trust the government. They may confiscate that money. So the safest place for you to put that money is into the stock market, because Google, Amazon, Apple, they're global companies, right? Nothing is actually keeping them in the US other than the US has the most safest financial market. They have, probably the most responsible Federal Reserve. They have the most responsible government. So there's absolutely no reason for, Amazon to consider itself a company of a different country. But there's nothing stopping them from doing so. So your money is actually safer in Amazon and Google stock than it is in government debt. And that's why the stock market's going up. Not to mention Trump continues to try and lower taxes for corporations, making corporations even more profitable, and making their stock even more valuable. Therefore, there's lots of reasons for the stock market to go up. Inflation, same thing. I mean, that was another thing. Like, I really wish I had more time to deal with the traditional market stuff. But when people went like nuts over the high inflation number, well, great. The stock market adjusts for inflation, because Apple is going to raise the prices on their cell phones if inflation is going up. So you're going to pay more for that Apple cell phone. Therefore, Apple is going to make more money. They're going to totally adjust their products for inflation. Apple as a company is going to make more money. Therefore, their stock is going to be more valuable. So the stock market is completely inflation adjusted. And the stock market adjusts for improvement in technology, something that gold is the opposite of, right? Like, as technology improves, gold becomes less and less useful. But as technology improves, better companies that are able to adapt to the technology enter the S&P 500 and then eventually the Dow Jones. So this is why your stock market has gone nothing but up since 1913, and your gold has gone nothing but adjust for inflation since 1913, right? Like, it's gold. 1 ounce of gold bought you a suit in 1913. 1 ounce of gold buys you a suit today. If instead of buying the suit in 1913, you put that money in the Dow Jones, you can buy 100,000 suits today instead of one. That's the difference. This is why the stock market is a good investment and gold isn't. All right, let's see what else we got. Litecoin. Oh God. All right, I'll glance at it. All right, what do we got? 1, 2, and 3. All right, so while that's loading, let's see what else we got. Have you ever bought or sold in a panic? Kinda. I try not to. I try to stay calm these days. I mean, I try to be more of a patient trader these days. And so I try to like stay away from like panics, and I just rationally try to think about this stuff. Oh wow, Litecoin really went up against Bitcoin, huh? All right, so again, this is one of those situations where you have a one-off price flip in the middle of your run. So if you ignore that, this is 6, 7, 8, 9, and now you bust it out. So I mean, it's not always going to work, but this is something that I would look at. But this was more like a, so hindsight, which is always 2020. And I wasn't looking at Litecoin at all. I mean, I don't care, but you had a pretty neat bull pennant flag. And if you take the pole, which is this, and then you extrapolate it up, you have your target. Probably pretty, somewhat high. Let me see. .01, and hey, you already reached it. Yeah, so you're kind of done, right? That was your target. Your target was a .01 pop, which took place. So, oh no, it still has a little more to go, I guess. No, but it's coming from a lower area. Maybe a smidge to go. I'll put it here. So, yeah, Litecoin may not have topped. I mean, this is the weekly chart, right? I believe, or is this daily? That's weekly. Let's go to daily. Daily hit a 9 and it's taking a break. Let's see how big that break is. You did get your take profit signal. Wait, what am I missing here? Oh, this is hourly. Sorry, my bad. What is this then? This is the daily versus the dollar. Yeah, it looks like it still has some upside. Maybe it's forming one of these pennants. So why is this the 1 hour chart? Yeah, so the 1 hour chart's taking a little break. This should be daily. It looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Looks like it still has some more to go on the daily. You're flirting with all-time highs. I mean, this is good. I mean, you broke above all-time highs, so there should be more upside for Litecoin. All right, next. Yeah, I can't think of a recent event where I bought or sold in a panic, so I can't really comment. Tone, if the only way to use a Bitcoin in the future would be to have a chip in your hand, would you do it? I don't know. Is this chip encrypted? Is this chip open source? Is this chip government tracked? Who's putting it in my hand, right? If if it's a combination of Peter Will, Luke Dash Jr., and Gregory Maxwell, I'd probably put it in my hand. If it's the NSA, then no, right? I mean, who's making the chip has a lot to do with it, right? Do I have the ability to remove the chip? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and we're nowhere near there, so there's no reason to really investigate it. Next, Big banks and investors afraid Bitcoin possession of unknown Satoshi as put off. I guess, but it doesn't matter, right? Oh my God, Satoshi has 5% of all of the Bitcoin. Let me go use Dash where Evan Duffield has 50% of all the Dash, right? Come on, it's ridiculous. It's still the most decentralized, um, safest alternative, right? So what's your other option? Go to a centralized coin where one guy has 100 times more control than Satoshi ever did? Like, come on. What do I think about the Omni layer? It's stupid. Next. Any altcoin at all that you don't deem as a shitcoin scam? Sure. Litecoin and Monero, right? They're the only coins of scale that are not scams. Now now you have to understand something, right? For example, I'm trying to think of something. Shoot. No, it's hard for me. Like pets.com wasn't a scam, right? But it wasn't a good investment. Litecoin is not a scam, but it's not a good investment because I don't see Litecoin being useful at all in the future. So while you can trade it, you can make money on it, but you have to understand that the future of Litecoin has to be limited, right? Because if Litecoin has a future, then Bitcoin doesn't. There are projects that aren't scams. They have to be decentralized. You can't have one guy printing it for himself. It has to be proof of work. There has to be fair mining. You can't skim off the mining like Zcash is doing. Like there's a hand like Doge. Doge is not a scam, right? It's stupid, but it's not a scam. Like how exactly is Doge different than Litecoin? Other than Litecoin has some developers and Doge no longer does. And the future, let's put it this way, right? The future of Litecoin is a lot closer to Doge than it is to Bitcoin. Just keep that in mind. That's all I want to explain to people. All right, next. Would Jimmy ever consider advising the SEC or the CFTC as they are badly short of advisors' knowledge and the correct advice to assist in avoiding negative regulation? Well, Jimmy's expertise is in development, right? So I'm not sure that he would be the best advisor for SEC or CFTC, right? Like potentially I should be a slightly better advisor for SEC or CFTC. Now, I'm not saying I want to do it, but my financial background makes me a more useful advisor for SEC or CFTC, even though Jimmy understands the blockchain way better than me. But yeah, just something to keep in mind, right? But sure, I mean, if the SEC or the CFTC gave me a call, I'd probably take it at this point, right? As much as I hated those organizations a few years ago, I mean, these ICO scams need to go away somehow, and no one in this space is policing it. So you're gonna have the SEC do it sooner or later. You want to do it in the most optimal. Like, look. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. My allegiances are with Bitcoin. So if, I don't know, a 10-year-old friend of mine that I advised not to ICO has ICO'd, I have no problem with getting him busted for that as long as my allegiances to Bitcoin remain secure, right? Like my job is to make sure that the SEC doesn't try to do something stupid to Bitcoin. And if some prominent Bitcoiner has to go away for being a scam or ICO for that to happen, then I have no problem advising the SEC or the CFTC of that happening. Maybe that guy should not have ICO'd, okay? I'm sorry, my morals are a little bit different than others, right? Like, I have some leeway to helping out friends and everything, but hey, If you're ICOing, you're taking the risk, right? Like it's I'm not going to protect you at the expense of Bitcoin itself. There's bigger things at work here than individual people. You got greedy. You wanted a bunch of millions of dollars that we all want, and I'm sorry, but if that's in the way of Bitcoin's progress, then that's what's going to end up happening. And better it happened sooner than later, right? Like maybe if the SEC would have gone after Ethereum when they should have, none of this ICO garbage would be happening right now. Why does the price have to go down to go even higher? What's the psychology behind it? The psychology behind it is that if the price never actually dips for people to buy the dip, everyone is buying at a FOMO chasing the price. And sooner or later, nothing goes up forever, and the price will reverse. And all those people that did not properly buy at the dip, they're all going to panic and sell. And then the price goes down even lower. Like again, right? Your answer, all you have to do is look at the daily price of Bitcoin since November, right? Like look, this is what happens. Like, look, the last time we had a dip was from 7,500, like I told everyone, down to 5,400 that I slightly missed. I was expecting 5. This was the last true dip. Look what happened after this dip. We went straight to 20,000. And guess what happened afterwards? We went back to 75 and even further. If we would have had pullbacks, like if right here we would have had a pullback to 7,500 from 10,000 and then went to 20, it's very, very likely that on the way down, we would have stayed above 10,000. We would have stayed above the last high prior to the last dip. Because we never had another dip since the dip from 75 to 5, I had about 90% confidence that once the price finally reversed, it's going to 7,500 or lower, and we actually went lower. So that is why you want the price to go down before it goes up. Otherwise, you get wrecked from the top, and it will go down forever until it reaches a level of support that was a prior high. Okay, this is the same problem I always had with not properly testing 1,300 on the way down. And I've explained that on many other videos. All right, next. Are precious metals dead? Feels like it to me. Next. Do you think it's possible the US government created Bitcoin? No, it's not. With the intention of using Satoshi's Bitcoin to replace the dollar? No, that's not true. That I don't consider that at all. Next. Yeah, I do try to act rationally dealing with irrational markets. I do the best that I can. All right, so Corey's telling me that the questions just keep coming, and I can cut it off whenever I can. So I know Corey didn't throw it in there, but someone asked why I left the World Crypto Network. I didn't really leave the World Crypto Network, right? I mean, it was always a come and go system, and I was on the Bitcoin group a few weeks ago. I know there's another episode in like 2 hours, and I know I have a shitload of work to do, so I may or may not join that. I'm gonna play it by ear. Did I read Charlie Lee's vision of Segment and Lightning Network? No, I have not. Well, Charlie has Charlie has an incentive to keep his baby alive and give you reasons why Litecoin is relevant and important and why Litecoin is going to stay, right? I mean, if I created something, I would be fully incentivized to make sure that my project isn't a failure, right? So reading that from Charlie isn't exactly a selling point, right? I need to read that from a Bitcoin developer. not from Charlie. I need to show me, you know, I mean, Luke Dash Jr. finally said something good about Litecoin and didn't call it a scam when Litecoin got segued and Bitcoin couldn't. Like, show me something from a top 10 Bitcoin developer, right? Explaining why Litecoin is good and why it's necessary and why we need it, and I'll start to consider it, right? Give me something from Gregory Maxwell, or Peter Will, or Luke Dash Jr., or Peter Todd, or I don't know, let's name some more people. Alex Marcos, the Blue Math, what's his name? Eric Lombroso, Jameson Lopp, you know, give me something from them, not something from Charlie. Would I invest 5,000 into Amazon or into mining equipment over 1,200 over the next 1,200 days? If I wanted to, that's a very good question actually. It depends, right? Like I actually don't mind investing in mining because I want to help decentralize mining, because the more decentralized mining is, the more valuable my Bitcoin is, right? So even though my $5,000 investment will make me significantly less money from the mining venture than it would if I put that money into Amazon stock, the thing is, I would probably put it into mining because under the intention that by helping out the Bitcoin network, I am helping my Bitcoin savings grow in value, right? So it's kind of like I've been saying for like 3 or 4 years to VCs, the best investment you can make is not investing in stupid companies trying to put real estate on the blockchain, but instead, as a VC, you buy a bunch of Bitcoin and then you help Bitcoin's PR problem by investing in like PR companies and maybe promoting Bitcoin and paying developers, you know, to make Bitcoin secure. And then you basically you're spending money on helping Bitcoin, and then you'll make your money on the back end of holding the Bitcoin. So you know, go sponsor Andreas Antonopoulos, you know, as he goes around the world. You know, go sponsor a core developer. You know, things like that. Well, like, and then your Bitcoin that you're holding in your wallet goes up in value. But it's a bit of a trick question. Yeah, I've been thinking about shaving my head a lot more now that I'm live every freaking day and everyone keeps asking me to shave my head. Next. Dude, all right. I'm gonna keep answering questions if you keep posting them. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. This is it. It's the last batch, man. Oh my God, no. Jesus. How many questions are here? All right, last two. Last two. That's it. Then I'm done, man. You think SC20 tokens? I don't know what that is. What's SC20 tokens? You mean ERC20 tokens, like the Ethereum crap? Will be next huge thing because you can now easily create security ICOs on Polymath platform. Guys, this is all garbage, right? I mean, the ability to print your own money or to make your own securities is very, very good for a scammer trying to print his own securities to avoid regulation. Sooner or later, some very prominent people are going to get arrested and everyone else is going to get the message. And it will stop. The new Polymath network for legal security tokens. You don't need a blockchain for that, guys. What miner would you recommend? Avalon. I do not support Bitmain. So the miner that I have is from Canon. If you look in the description of my video, there is a link to the miner that I'm currently running. They already have a new batch of miners that are more advanced and more powerful. So check out the description of my video. My miner recommendation is there. All right, last one. Is there a difference between a cup and handle and an ascending triangle? The shapes are a little bit different. So let's go to the 4-hour chart. So there's actually no difference between a cup and handle and a head and shoulders, right? Well, inverted head and shoulders, whatever, right? So like the reason why I don't care for head and shoulder patterns is because a cup and handle, like here, like people saw this here as the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, right? But I saw a cup and handle. Like to me, a cup and handle is a simpler way of looking at head and shoulders. So I almost ignore head and shoulders, and I just focus on the right side of head and shoulders, which is a cup and handle, right? But other than that, it's just like in order to draw a triangle in this environment, right? Like it was going to be hard because I can't connect them all, right? So in a way, if you could, because a cup and handle has a little more like discretion. The idea is the same, right? So the idea of a cup and handle is the same as a ascending triangle because you have even highs and higher lows. The only difference is can you draw a straight line connecting the lows? If you could, I draw triangles. If I can't, I look for cup and handles. So that's probably the best way I can explain it. No, I've never shaved my head. I got recognized today at a place I went to lunch at. It was really cool, actually. Hey, shout out to you guys. Oh, your business card is. Oh, do I have it in my pocket? Hey, there it is. So shout out to Mark for recognizing me at a coffee shop earlier today. He was there with his whole family. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations to your son who just got married. So you guys were out there. But hey, thanks for watching my videos. All right. Is this the last question? Just a thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for watching, guys. And I'll talk to you all on the next one.